and her just off the cuff making a joke about Muslims.
She doesn't support women wearing the burqa. That's a legitimate view.
But what's funny about it? Explain the joke.
Many people do not support women wearing the burqa. They find it repressive.
But why make fun about?
And they
why
want
make
to live
fun of
in a
how Muslims
country
dress?
in which men and women live equally?
If a left-wing MP...
The funny thing is, Lewis,
if a left-wing MP...
you seem to be willing to make all manner of excuses for Islamism in this country.
Do you think that all women wearing burqas are Islamists?
No.
Well, there we are.
I don't like creeping Islamist practices.
If a left-wing MP or whatever said, just went up to a party conference and their autocue disappeared and just joked, said, I wanted to dress up in Jewish Orthodox dress, would that be funny? Would you think that was funny?
I think it's a perfectly legitimate view to say that you don't like the burqa.
Well, would you
particularly
think
for a woman to be able to say that?
Would you think it funny, particularly in a week?
A Reform UK deputy leader gets asked one simple question, again and again. Do you apply the same standard to every religion, or just one? Nigel Farage called a Muslim prayer gathering in Trafalgar Square an act of dominance. Days later, an MP joked about wearing a tartan burka on stage. Robert Jenrick was asked to defend both, and to explain whether he'd ever raised the same objection about gender separated Orthodox Jewish worship in public. Watch closely for the moment Jenrick is asked a yes or no question about Orthodox Jewish practice.
Should people be angry at the way in which both of the two main parties have left our country on energy and on security in the weakest position in our lifetimes? Yes, absolutely. And that is the difference that a reform government would offer, a fundamental break from those failures.
Just on other matters. Your leader, Nigel Farage, said that what we saw with the group Muslim prayer in Trafalgar Square the other day was a group of people attempting dominance over our capital city and our culture. I'd just like you to watch this clip and tell me whether you think this counts as dominance. Just watch this.
Having Hanukkah on the square gives us an opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Jewish friends and colleagues and neighbours, and to show clear unity and a real sense of belonging between all of us, Jewish and non-Jewish, and show everyone that we stand solely against division, hatred and discrimination.
That's Debbie Weeks-Bernard, who's the Deputy Mayor for Communities and Social Justice, speaking about last December's Hanukkah event. Is that domination, Robert?
Well, firstly, I think the event that you saw in Trafalgar Square was different in character to some of the others that have been held for different religious denominations in recent times, because it was a segregated event. I find it astonishing that the Prime Minister and the Community Secretary are going around essentially calling everyone bigots and racists.
Can we just have a bit of context?
Let me finish my point, Lewis. For saying that a segregated event in one of our most important public spaces is wrong. That is anti-British.
Okay.
And I never want to see that happen again. The idea that women should be huddling at the back in Trafalgar Square whilst men take centre stage in our country is wrong.
Ramadan Tent Project has said that is a gross misinterpretation of the gathering and totally untrue. In their statement, they said the event was open to all, that there were no restrictions to anyone in the square. They added that representatives from the Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Sikh communities attended the event, and the feedback from attendees was overwhelmingly positive. Yes, women and men prayed separately. That's how they do it in mosques. Well, is your problem with Islamic standard religious practice?
Well, I don't like women being second-class citizens, no.
So you don't like it in Orthodox Jewish churches either, or synagogues?
Well, that's not the way that I conduct myself. If you obviously people are free to practice their religion how they wish in our country, but should we be celebrating segregation? No, absolutely not. That is fundamentally anti-British.
It's not segregation.
Let me ask you a question.
Why is it segregation?
Because the men and women were in different parts of Trafalgar Square.
But
if that is a reflection on our country today, then that's a very dark place.
The women at that event chose to attend. They chose where to stand. Are you saying that British Muslim women can't be trusted to make their own decisions about how they practice their faith?
I think segregated events are not to be encouraged. I want men and women to be on an equal footing in our country.
Can you point me to a single occasion?
Absolutely. And let me make one point, Lewis. The organisers of this event, because you raised them, Ramadan Tent Project, do you know who is the CEO of that?
Can you
Omar Salah. Let me just make this point, because it's an important one. The man who is the chief executive of the organisation that held that event, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, pulled out of an iftar with him because he was a fanatic and was not prepared to be seen in public with him.
To a single occasion,
So
Robert Jenrick.
do you think...
Can you point me... No, I'm asking the question.
Do you think we should have an event in Trafalgar Square?
I'm sure you could have your own GB News show where you ask the questions if you like, but
well,
coming on this one,
you're
you can
essentially
answer the question. Can you point me to a single occasion when you have objected to gender separation in Orthodox Jewish religious practice in a public space? Because if you can't, why is the principle only activated when it's about Muslims?
It's not. I do not support, Lewis. I do not support the segregation of men and women
So let's imagine,
in public spaces, whether that is Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, or Muslim.
They prayed separately.
That's
what Muslims do, just like Orthodox Jews do.
I don't like that personally.
So is that a very British value?
Very different.
Is that a very British value? Talk about British values. Is it a very British value to tell people how to conduct their own religion?
We're all allowed our own opinions.
But you're saying the event, of course you are. But you're saying these events shouldn't take place.
My view is that a fundamental British value is that men and women live on equal footing in our country. And I don't think we should be encouraging, as you seem to be, events being held in our most important public spaces where men and women pray or stand or associate separately. I think that's wrong. Maybe you and I obviously disagree on this, Lewis.
No, I'm just
maybe think that it's okay for there to be men telling women how to vote or women being stood somewhere else in a public space.
Robert Jenrick, are you telling me that if, say, an Orthodox Jewish event had taken place in Trafalgar Square, that Nigel Farage would have got up and complained about it this week and said it was an act of domination?
Really? I wouldn't encourage that. And also, Lewis,
I think you're misleading the listeners completely.
Let's look at the other facts here, Lewis. Number one, the event is organised by a fanatic who the Prime Minister will not be seen in public with.
What's he said that's fanatical?
He was associating himself with Cage, a group which has Islamist fanatical views.
And are you honestly saying that all of the people at that event would associate themselves with fanatical views?
We know the organiser did.
The vast majority of the people there, clearly, they weren't Islamists, were they? They were just Muslims praying.
Some may well be.
Oh, great. Well, we could say that about anyone. Can you get inside their heads? Is that the sort of country you want to live in, Robert Jenrick?
You think it's okay that the Prime Minister will not be seen in public with the organiser of an event who then goes on to hold one in Trafalgar Square?
I just wonder why.
I mean, Lewis, that's a frankly ridiculous argument.
I just wonder why it is that you feel so comfortable in the name of British values telling people how to practice their religion. And again, I put it to you, would you tell Orthodox Jews that they should not practice their religion their way, i.e. men and women praying separately? Yes or no?
I do not want to see men and women being segregated in our country, irrespective of their religion. On the broader point, though, Lewis, we are a Christian country. I'm not ashamed to say that. Of course we're a Christian country. And so it's important that our big public spaces are not used by particular faiths in acts of domination. This is straight out of the Islamist playbook.
Your party,
that's what happened here. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Your party has a problem with Muslims, doesn't it?
We have a problem with Islamism in this country.
I'll tell you what, let's add to a separate event.
We have to understand the context here. The context is that Islamism is on the rise. It's having
those people weren't Islamists, were they?
Well, the organiser was a fanatic.
Sadiq Khan was there.
The organiser was a fanatic.
Sadiq Khan was there. You think he's an Islamist?
I don't think Sadiq Khan is an Islamist, but he seems to be willing to associate with them,
right?
Because he sanctioned an event being held by an organisation called the Ramadan Tent Project, which is run by somebody who the Prime Minister himself will not be seen in public with because of his abhorrent views.
Let's talk about your party and your relationship with Muslims. Just listen to this clip. This happened this week.
What about Muslims? He wants to ban them.
I've never, ever got involved in religious politics or racial politics in that sense at all.
And wouldn't.
And wouldn't, ever.
So that's Nigel Farage, that's a different clip. But Nigel Farage there saying that he never gets involved in religious politics. What's changed?
Well, what are you referring to? He just said he didn't want to get involved in religious politics.
Well, he used to say he would never get involved in religious politics, and now here he is telling a group of religious people that they can't pray in a public place. What changed?
No, he's saying very clearly that public spaces in this country are for everyone, and they shouldn't be used by particular groups to assert domination. That is a view that most people in our country would support.
Would you feel dominated if you were walking past?
I think many people would feel that threatening. Yes.
What, because someone was praying?
Because there's a broader context here.
But Roger Jenrick, there have been so many religious events.
My point.
I don't understand.
1 minute.
Would they be dominating as well?
If you let me finish my point, you have to look at the broader context here. Islamism is on the rise. We've seen public spaces being used for years now, particularly since October the 7th, by Islamists to lionize prescribed groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, to lionize rockets being fired by the Houthis at British flagged vessels out
What's
at
that
sea.
got to do with people praying
Because there's a
in
broader
Trafalgar
context.
Square, just ordinary
There's a
British
broad-
citizens
there's a
like
broad-
you and me
ordinary British
exercising their
citizens
rights?
like Omar Salah,
Come on,
who is
Robert Jenrick.
who is a fanatical individual.
Would you accept that there will definitely have been ordinary Muslims there who would have no truck with
Of
those
course,
views?
but
Well,
you-
therefore, then
but
that's
you- but
okay,
you-
isn't it?
You, Lewis,
But that's okay.
have failed to respond to my question that the event was organised by someone who has fanatical views.
Sadiq Khan was leading that
Yeah, and
event.
he should not
and
have been
there.
there.
Were many
I would
ordinary
not,
Muslims
if
that
I
be there.
if I knew an event was being
Your
organised
party-
by a fanatic, I would not go
Your
to
party,
it, and I would disassociate
your
myself
party
with it.
clearly has a problem with Muslims, as was evidenced by what Sarah Pochin said this week. Let's let the listeners just listen to this.
We have a problem with Islamist extremism.
Sarah Pochin.
You should too.
Sarah Pochin decided to make fun of the idea of just walking in, wearing a tartan burka. Now, what's funny about that? What's the joke?
Look, Sarah will have to answer for herself, but she
Well,
opposes women wearing the burqa.
She's an MP of your party. What's so funny about
support
that?
women wearing the burqa.
Would it be very funny? Would it have been very funny? Well, let's just listen to it so the listeners can judge for themselves.
I wanted very much to come up and be part of this conference today. Oh, my auto cue's frozen. And do you know what? The funny thing is about my auto cue freezing is my chief of staff and David Ball will go into a complete panic because once I start to ad-lib, the press have a field day. So in fact, we were talking about the reformed tartan then, weren't we, whilst I'm just waiting for my auto cue. And I really wanted to come on in a reformed tartan burqa, but it apparently I just wasn't allowed.
Less than 30 seconds before her script disappearing and her just off the cuff making a joke about Muslims.
She doesn't support women wearing the burqa. That's a legitimate view.
But what's funny about it? Explain the joke.
Many people do not support women wearing the burqa. They
What's
find
fun-
it repressive.
But why make fun about?
And they
Why
want
make
to live
fun of
in a
how Muslims
country
dress?
in which men and women live equally?
If a left-wing MP,
the funny thing is, Lewis,
if a left-wing MP,
you seem to be willing to make all manner of excuses for Islamism in this country.
Do you think that all women wearing burqas are Islamist?
No.
Well, there we are.
I don't like creeping Islamist practices.
If a left-wing MP or whatever said, just went up to a party conference and their auto cue disappeared and just joked, said, I wanted to dress up in Jewish Orthodox dress, would that be funny? Would you think that was funny?
I think it's a perfectly legitimate view to say that you don't like the burqa.
Well, would you think
particularly for a woman to be able to say that?
Would you think it funny, particularly in a week of a religious, in a week of a religious festival, in a week of a very important religious festival to millions of Muslims, our fellow citizens in this country, to have one of your MPs just off the cuff, just making a joke about how people in their communities dress? Why do it? Why do it?
Sarah Pochin had a long-standing view that she doesn't support the burqa.
Across these clips, one pattern stands out. Robert Jenrick was asked several times whether he'd ever objected to gender-separated Orthodox Jewish practice in public. He never named an instance. Instead, he returned to broader language about British values and Islamism. That gap between a stated universal principle and an inability to show it applied elsewhere is the clearest tell in the exchange. There's a genuine factual dispute too. The event's organisers say it was open to all faiths and voluntary. Jenrick described it as segregation and domination. Both claims can't be fully true at once, and viewers should weigh that themselves on the burqa joke. Jenrick was asked repeatedly what was funny about it. He answered a different question, defending opposition to the burqa as policy, without addressing the humour itself. That's a common move in political interviews. Answer the question you'd prefer, not the one you were asked. None of this proves motive. It shows a pattern worth noticing. Was this a principle applied unevenly, or a principle that was never really about consistency at all? That's for you to decide.